Hey, welcome back to another video. Another day. We're going to be reacting to Trump chickened out. He chickened out, and I just wish CNN would be quiet because right now, allow him to just not feel like he has to, do anything about this. Like he won. Let's just keep it on he won, and let's have the conversation with China, and let's bring back all the stuff that we need to make the economy do good. But yeah, anyways, y'all, let's hop right into it. No time to waste.
Trump chickened out. At least that is what the Chinese are saying. I mean, that post with the viral hashtag Trump chicken out now has 150 million views in China and counting.
That is a little embarrassing. But at the same time, who cares? We need to make a deal.
After Trump all but caved to Xi Jinping.
We are going to have a fair deal with China. It's going to be fair.
Are you talking to them actively now?
Actively. Everything's active.
Mr. President, has there been any direct contact between the U.S. and China on trade at all?
Yeah, of course.
And
every day.
Every day and active. I mean, the implication here, what it sounds like, is there's a big deal, it's being worked on, things are happening, we're moving forward. Well, the problem is that he was undermined in that sentiment and rhetoric by his own Treasury Secretary, who told reporters this morning that, quote, both sides are waiting to speak to the other. Waiting to speak to the other. I mean, that's the whole waiting by the phone thing that's been going on for weeks now. Of course, talking takes 2 seconds in a situation like this if something real starts. It literally takes 2 seconds. In fact, the Chinese finance minister is in Washington, D.C. as I speak, yet we'll show him to you. He is there not meeting with the Trump team right now. But why did Trump put 145% tariffs on China only to back down? Why would that happen? I mean, because according to the Wall Street Journal tonight, Trump is considering major concessions, potentially slashing some tariffs on Chinese imports by more than half. And that's pretty incredible. To cut by more than half when you haven't even started negotiating means you are negotiating against yourself. And that comes as Trump sounds like a completely different person when it comes to Beijing. I mean, just listen to him over the past 24 hours.
We're doing fine with China. I'm not going to say, I'm going to play hardball with China. We're going to be very nice. We're going to be very good to China.
I mean, that rhetoric...
They cut that clip up a lot. To be 1,000% fair, they absolutely cut that clip up a lot. They did. Like, he said a lot more in that clip. It wasn't that he was backing down. It's that he was realizing that the markets weren't going to do well, and he was doing what was best for the American people. But he was also doing what was best for the citizens of China, because they weren't going to back down. But their not backing down was going to make more of a problem added into the problem that, yes, Trump caused, 100%. But he's doing this for the people, knowing that CEOs are coming to him talking about their shelves in 2 weeks aren't going to be able to be stocked. So,
good to China, nice to China is radically different than what we have heard from Trump. I mean, radically different. And words matter here. Words have started this whole thing. Listen to what he said since the beginning of the trade war.
Look, for years we've been ripped off and taken advantage of by China.
What other presidents allow China to get away with is absolutely criminal. China obviously treats us very badly.
China's an abuser.
China is ripping off the United States for $1 trillion a year.
And that almost pales to what was online. I mean, dozens of posts like the ones we'll show you here. China's brutal to American farmers. China treats us the worst. China panicked. I mean, you can read the missives. At this point, though, the side that seems to be panicking is the Trump side here, which, if these tariffs are being slashed like this, that is backing off. And the only reason that you're backing off is so odd is that the entire fight was picked by him to begin with, right? Yes. I mean, this wouldn't be even a thing if he hadn't started it. And China has so far not had to give up anything yet. So Beijing seems to be sort of in shock and not able to believe its luck. I mean, some of the things that are being said on Chinese social media, he's like a child who changes his stances instantly. Today's Trump beat yesterday's Trump. What will tomorrow's Trump do? But Trump's retreat is stunning because it does go against everything he has said, pretty much everything.
We've been ripped off for years, and we're not going to be ripped off anymore. No, I'm not going to bend at all, aluminum or steel.
for cars, no exceptions, no nothing.
We don't necessarily want to make a deal with them.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiation?
Well, we're not looking at that. I'm not going to make a deal.
No deal, no bending, no nothing, but then they're cut in half tonight. I mean, if that all wasn't clear enough, what you just heard there was this online, the 4 words, and this really sums it up. Sums up why we are where we are. No exemptions, no exceptions. So when you look at what's happening tonight, maybe cutting it in half, that obviously is a complete and utter and total change of policy. It raises the question of whether Trump's words and his promises mean anything on the world stage. And billionaire GOP megadonor Ken Griffin tonight put it this way.
The United States was more than just a nation. It's a brand. It's a universal brand, whether it's our culture, our financial strength, our military strength. America rose beyond just being a country. It was like an aspiration for most of the world. And we're eroding that brand right now.
So why should other countries trust Trump, especially when they're out there saying this?
CarParts.com always delivers, and they carry quality parts.
Now that's my speed.
Big ideas.
We've got 90 deals in 90 days possibly pending here.
90 deals in 90 days. There hasn't been one yet. The man behind the art of the deal, though, himself, right now, has no deals. There's no deals yet in that column. In fact, the only thing Trump may have to show right now are general agreements of understanding they talk about, which, of course, are agreements to talk more and eventually maybe come to an agreement. And yet loyalists like Stephen Miller write this, quote, "You've been watching the greatest economic master strategy from an American president in history." Jeff Zeleny is out live outside the White House to begin our coverage. So Jeff, what more can you tell us about what's going on here, right? No exemptions, no exceptions, and now maybe slashing tariffs in half? Or what are you learning?
Well, Aaron, a central question has always been, what is the political pain point for the president in this trade war? And it appears that we are seeing it. I mean, you can just listen over the last 72 hours or so. The stance on China has softened remarkably, really on other economic metrics as well. On Jerome Powell, of course, no longer calling for the firing of him. So when we put this all together, there is a through line here. The White House, the president, the Trump administration, as he approaches his 100th day in office next week, the markets have been one of the few sort of checks on his policies. And this is something, as we often talk about, something he watches him very carefully. And China has not blinked. They have mocked the president in some respect, as you showed there. So clearly what is happening now is the U.S. is trying to get China to the negotiating table. That is very much an open question. There is no evidence that there have been direct conversations. The president, again, just a short time ago in the Oval Office, has said there are direct talks every day. There is no evidence of that. If there actually are these talks going on, China is not saying so. The U.S. is. That's sort of unusual here. But
he's trying to keep the world calm. He's trying to keep everybody calm by telling everybody that. But of course they're not talking, because China doesn't want to talk to us right now because of what he did. But if he's willing to come to the table with something, and China's willing to come to the table with something, then that needs to happen, so we can just move on and go back to our regular programming.
Look, the bottom line to all of this is the president has been presented with some information that he believes the economy, the markets are struggling because of his policies. That meeting in the Oval Office that we reported earlier, those CEOs of Walmart, of Target, of Lowe's, of Home Depot, really raising the alarm of a supply shortage, empty shelves by summer, prices rising, that got the president's attention. So it certainly is softening his stance. The question is, will China pick up the phone? Or are they going to wait for the president to blink even more, Aaron?
All right, Jeff Zeleny, thank you very much. Everyone's here with me. And Dan, that's the thing. If you come from 145 and you cut it in half without even having to have a conversation, it's not necessarily a great negotiating point to be starting from. But Trump chickens out, 150 million views.
I mean, the reality is that the situation, as you hear from small business owners, you see the ships piling up, across Asia. You see these corporations, as Trump's hearing from. This is an avalanche that's now going downstream, and I think you're essentially playing poker, but to some extent with yourself, because as you continue to sort of back up here, is that even though market's up and it's a positive there, what's the next step? What's the rules of the game? And that continues to be the frustrating thing, I think, for everyone involved, from the market to corporations.
I mean, Trump is, the Chinese saying, well, what's Trump going to do versus Trump?
I don't know, ships were parked at the dock. That means that a lot of people don't want to take things off because of how much the tariff is going to be. That's crazy, man. Yeah, that's crazy.
Tomorrow, right? It's really negotiating with himself.
Relative to what Dan said, I think the market has caved in from February 19th, when we were trading at record highs, to the lows where they are now. Yes, we're a little bit off those lows, but it was all about messaging. It was percent. We still don't know anything more than we did then. We don't have written in stone what the numbers are, who's getting tariffed, who's going to suffer, who's going to benefit, who's paying for any of these things. We don't have, it's still all unknowns. So the market went all the way down to here on unknowns, and now they're bouncing back on small, short-term emotional bounces because people are just trying to find hope. It's like Jim Cramer said, what is it going to take for people to start buying stocks again? Yeah. But, look, what you know are the things that I don't know. To know that if what you're saying is a reality, that the boats are backed up and that there is going to be this complete breakdown of supply chain, the logistics in ships and trucks and all that is going to shut down everything, and it's going to affect everybody in the stores. That when that finally hits the market, that's a reality that
and
the
that's
market
what you were
is
saying,
not, and it's not going to handle quite well.
Yeah.
3 weeks, time's ticking. You talked about it in terms of yesterday, right? In terms of the CEOs, the reality of the situation, it's hitting.
Yeah, and I think there's a combination of a couple things. The one is the failure to communicate effectively. No one is speaking from the same hymn sheet, right? And when you're running a business, running a White House, right, the role of the chief of staff is one of the most important roles in the world, because that is the person who coordinates the message, the planning, the strategies, the deals, etc. Right now, the communication and cadence out of the White House and all the other branches right now is not in sync. Now, some of that is, it's your first 100 days. These new lieutenants were not in the last administration. They are in this administration. And we know that the president likes to have the last say. The difference right now is the communication effort, the coordination of speaking from the same hymn sheet is coming from everyone else outside in the business world, coming from corporate America, from those billionaire donors, from those founders. They're all going in a swan song, a chorus, and going to the White House and saying, this has to stop.
President Trump taking some questions there in the Oval Office. Joining us now, Republican from New York, Congressman Mike Lawler, who's also on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Let's start with what's been going on with tariffs, if we can. Congressman, the president signaling something of a U-turn on the astronomical tariffs proposed on China today. This comes after he met Monday with retail CEOs who warned of higher prices and empty shelves. President Trump, generally speaking, seems more prone to digging in than backing down. What do you think happened here exactly?
Using the right weight matters. The body pod lets you easily understand what is the fastest.
We know what happened. Like, we know that, like, people talk to him about it and let him know that it's a bad idea. Like, don't let this continue to go on, or it could be bad for the entire economy. I'm gonna listen to this last guy, then I'm gonna probably end it here.
Well, look, as I've said from the very beginning, I think the tariffs are meant to be a short-term negotiating tool to negotiate with countries like Japan, like Korea, like India, like the EU, Canada, Mexico, and, yes, China, to get better and fairer trade deals for the United States, to bring down barriers to entry to U.S. goods in those countries, as well as to eliminate things like price controls, that Europe has on U.S. prescription drugs, which, by the way, means that we are paying higher drug costs to subsidize Europe. So I think the objective was always, in large measure, to force renegotiation and get better trade deals. Obviously, and I've met with many folks, including economists from Deutsche Bank, for instance, earlier this week, as well as retail giants like Walmart last week. Of course, there is concern about some of the short-term, challenges as a result of this back and forth. But I think the long-term objective here, especially if the president is able to get agreements, and we saw yesterday the vice president speak out with respect to India. If we're able to get these agreements turned around quickly within the next 30 days or so, and you get the tax reconciliation bill done, as I've said from the beginning, the economy is going to take off, and that will be extremely good for every American.
And let's bring in Vanessa.
For sure. All right, well, that's pretty much it, man. I don't want to keep going on with it, basically. This is one side. You know how CNN, you watch CNN, it's bashing Trump. Fox is on Trump's side. You know, the fair part about it is that it's just going to be better for all of us that everybody just comes to the table and talk about all these deals. Trump did start it, and it should finish with him. So it's good he's ready to come to the table, y'all. That's what matters. That's all that matters. And I'm out, y'all. Peace.